Guyana is my country, the country I am proud of, and also a land where people share their love. Travel across Guyana and see all her beauty, a land of 6 races living in unity. Living unity, oh yes, we're living unity. Travel across Guyana and see all her beauty, a land of 6 races living in unity. A hard-working nation, they spend their money wise. They spend their money wise. Guyana is a paradise, Guyana is my country, the country I am proud of, and also a land where people share their love. Guyana is my country, the country I am proud of, and also a land where people share their love.
Good evening, and hey, welcome to the Guyana Election Forum. I'm yours truly, Shanaz Hussein, and I'll be your host and moderator for this evening program. Remember to join our previous program. We had 3 so far, so Mr. Tiloki missed the last one, and he's here. Thank you for being in our presence. We're going to recap you, and in fact, he actually watches the program last week, so he know what we were talking about, and he is all caught up and excited to be on our panel this week. Welcome back, Mr. Grant Lally. Mr. Grant Lally is an attorney right here in New York, so I'm sure you guys have any questions, reach out to him as well. As you know, Guyanese will be going to the polling stations September 1st for the 2025 election. That's right, the general and regional elections. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, our panelist this week is Mr. Grant Lally, who is an attorney, and Mr. Tiloki Dipu, who is a professor, both of whom are no stranger to our program. They have been here in our previous program, and they're excited to share their views of what's happening in homeland Guyana. So welcome, guys. Last week we talked about, as you know, there are 6 parties. There are 6 parties that will be on the ballot for our upcoming election in September. The PPPC party, the incumbent with Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, who is seeking to reclaim the office for another 5 years. We have the APNU led by Mr. Aubrey Norton, who is the current opposition leader. We have Forward Guyana led by Amanda Walton, a member of APNU. And we were talking earlier with Mr. Grant, ALP led by Simona Brooms, a former member of APNU as well. AFC led by Nigel Hughes, who is an attorney and was also part of APNU coalition. And lastly, WIN by Mr. Azruddin Mohammed, who we all know his background. He was sanctioned by the United States for various allegations and criminal activities. So guys, what's your thoughts as we're going to talk about all our candidates and how much you know of them? So during our past segment of this program, we spoke extensively about the 2020 elections and the attempt rigging by the then APNU AFC. We all know what transpired during the counting of the votes, right? We all know, we discussed that on 2 or 3 segments before, where the world witnessed the flagrant attempt of robbing and cheating the Guyanese for their democratic rights, where it is to elect a president of their choice. That's your right. That's my right. That's all the citizens' right. You have the right to freedom of speech. You have the right to vote. So there was a period of 5 months where the recount was misconducted, despite the recount showing that the PPPC winner, Keith Lowenfield, then the GECOM, I wanted to talk about the GECOM CEO, still attempted to alter the votes and proceed to prepare fictitious reports. You know, the counting was fictitious. Now, what is GECOM stands for?
So,
go ahead.
Shanaz, first of all, let me say thank you. And I am so pleased to be back here with good colleagues and you, and talking about what is probably the most exciting electoral period in Guyana's history. This takes me back to 1992, when Chetty Jagan led victory down the streets from Port Morant all the way to Mazaruni. And now what we're seeing in Guyana is this incredible surge of energy, excitement, and people are very, very much optimistic. History as a very momentous period. This will take us into the next development stage of Guyana.
Next development stage. Speaking of development, I have so many. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
But you ask, what is GECOM?
Right.
Guyana Elections Commission is GECOM. This is the body in Guyana that is authorized to run elections for the national and local government elections, of both elections. And so GECOM has absolute responsibility of the voters list, of disseminating the voters list, ensuring that it's clean, and obviously they have done their work. That's why we have a clean voters list. GECOM has responsibility to make sure that there are ballots printed and ready and transported to every region, so everyone has a right to vote. GECOM has a responsibility to ensure that the elections go smoothly on the day of election. And so that is, along with the various forces, police and any other, along with the observers as well, and the diplomatic community who spoke so eloquently during the last election about fairness and a free election. So GECOM also has a responsibility, and I noticed you mentioned, the then CEO of Region 4 returning officer, Lowenfield. Each returning officer has a responsibility to count the votes in front and in the presence of all of the parties that are contesting election. They have a responsibility to also publish that, put those statement of polls, it's called statement of polls, in front of the polling place, so the community can see who won that particular community. And so what happened in the last election was very disturbing. This gentleman, I don't even know if I can call him a gentleman, but
not a gentleman.
He decided that he was going to take matters in his own hands and decided to make numbers up. Throw out the count that all of the parties sat in and witnessed, and then decided to publish a spreadsheet that he has concocted out of thin air. And he couldn't even do that properly. It was flawed with errors. So, what we have to ensure this election as well, yes, those statements of polls are up so the community can see it, the observers can see it, and everyone can see it. So that's who GECOM is, and that's who Mr. Lowenfield used to work for. I believe he still has some legal issues.
He has some legal matters. I believe some colleagues of mine in the criminal bar in Guyana might be spending some time with him at the present.
They might be, have to work very hard to defend him because it's indefensible. What he was trying to do.
So he's a criminal records or.
Well, look, he's got criminal charges. I mean, there are multiple people involved with GECOM from 5 years ago.
Is he allowed to partake in this election?
No.
He's not. Okay.
He's no longer.
He's been terminated.
That makes my, ease my mind. I just wanted to remind the viewers out there that prior to the attempt of rigging the 2020 election, there was a no confidence motion, which we were talking about earlier, in December 2018, where APNU, AFC, refused to accept all election within mandated 3 months period. So here you are. They refused to take the election, and yet you want to forge it to say that you are ready. You're not prepared, but you want to forge it to say that you're ready.
And first of all, Shanaz, thank you for putting on this program. And Taloki, it's wonderful to be on with you. And you are very learned, and it's fabulous to be here today with you. And it's important because I think people in Guyana need to know, what's important about the election, what the accomplishments are, who the players are, but also how they can protect their right
That's right.
to their vote and ensure that what happened 5 years ago never happens again. And I think we're here because I think the machinery and there's a leadership who care are not going to allow this to happen again. But but it's good to keep people informed and let people know. So
I agree with you 100%, which is, every one of us who believe in democracy and every one of us who lived through the turbulent periods of 1966 to 1992, under those years, remember days where there was no protection of your right to vote. And so we've got to be vigilant. We cannot sit back and take anything for granted. We have to say, well, let's cover all bases. Let's make sure all stones are unturned.
And also, Guyanese should not feel threatened or someone is more powerful, they could hurt me, or threatened by.
No, look, there's a tremendous sense of freedom and relief in Guyana. I mean, people have such tremendous hope, frankly. And I've been going to Guyana. My wife is Guyanese. I've been going to Guyana for over 20 years. I was married in Guyana. So, I've seen it. I've seen it in good years. I've seen it in bad years. But really, these are wonderful years in Guyana. And people have tremendous opportunities. And everyone I know here in New York, they're all looking at going back. They're all looking at doing something. They're going back and fixing up the old house. They're looking to do a business. They're reconnecting with relatives who never left. And it's
foundation. It's a well-built foundation. That brought us to our next topic. Are number one when it comes to food security in homeland Guyana, and that's not so many. We help.
And Shanaz, I really want us to you
Joining us is Mr. Tiloki, who is a professor, and Mr. Grant, who is an attorney right here in New York. He also a publisher. So here we have it, guys. Just one of our projects done by our president, Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali. I'm sure you guys have something to see. How impressed are you? That's the night view of the Demerara Harbor Bridge and the hospital.
That is, modern, state-of-the-art technology used to benefit Guyanese people. That's, that video, that's what it shows us. That's what it's all about, is that how can you make, ordinary Guyanese lives better?
Yeah.
This is what it does.
Yeah, no, I can take it back. Guyana is advancing and making progress at such a tangible, rapid rate, and it's phenomenal to see. I mean, I've been going to Guyana since before the Berbice Bridge was built, and I want to give full credit to the vice president, Barrett Jagdeo. When he was president, he had that bridge built. But I remember before that bridge, having to take that ferry
in the morning
across to New Amsterdam, and what a nightmare. I mean,
that's
you would wait for
task.
hours. You would wait for hours in line. You would, crowd onto this ferry. It was like a circus.
If you had to go to the airport,
there would be people there with like with one leg missing, juggling with a parrot and a monkey, and
you felt like you were a pirate of the Caribbean.
It was like being on another planet. But it was colorful. It was fun.
And now it makes a trip to Berbice. I'm from Berbice, so I'm always back in Georgetown doing some business and back to Berbice. So it makes my day. I could make it work for me. So, Mr. Tiloki, let's speak between the elections, between 2015 and 2020, when APNU PNC was back in government. What did they do for us?
So the PNC APNU government inflicted detrimental harm to the Guyanese people. Economically, socially. And, one of the things a government does not do is take food away from people and the mouths of children. And so what that government did of work. But not only that, they made no provision as to, how do you train these people who have been displaced by the closure of these
Relocating them to
Yeah,
other
exactly.
profession.
They stopped the PNC partnership stopped cash grant for school children. This is ridiculous. Right?
Education is the key to success.
They
It's
gave
nurturing our new
themselves-
minds.
Yeah, they gave themselves new cars. They gave themselves hefty salary increases, pension increases. They gave themselves raises, right?
The more better they were doing, the worse
Worse,
our people
yeah.
was doing. They were suffering.
And we hear a lot of talk about the Exxon contract, right? It was negotiated under their administration, right? They walked away with $18 million that are still unaccounted for. Come on. We're not going back.
That was a sign-on bonus from Exxon.
Yeah.
Initial sign-on
Yeah,
bonus.
but it didn't go to the Guyanese people, right?
Right.
It didn't go to the Guyanese people. They also, had hundreds of jobs lost for indigenous people, right? And then when they left office, the Auditor General put out a report that said that the Treasury literally had no money in it, right? They literally raped the Treasury, and
They could have used the funds to upkeep their lavish lifestyle.
Exactly.
Who was funding them? Let's raise the tax meter outside. Let's raise I believe you have to put parking meters were in effect, right?
Yeah.
So we had to fund their lifestyle.
the worst thing you do is you stifle the creativity of Guyanese people, and you stifle their entrepreneurial spirit. You stifle their ability to create wealth. And so what does the PNC APDU partnership do, right? During the 2015 to 2020 period, right? They impose over 200 different taxes on Guyanese people. We're not going back in that era.
Not in that era again.
They, if you want turmoil, if you want a decline in GDP, if you want, high unemployment,
You want the country to suffer.
that's right. You go back and you vote, but that's not the nation, and the Guyanese people don't want that. And we can go back from 1966 to 1992 to show how their economic policies, that their lack of vision in terms of economic policy, has destroyed the Guyanese economy. They, at one point, there were about annually 30,000 Guyanese leaving. When the PPP came back into power in 1992, that number reduced all the way down to 6,000. And so people saw confidence. People saw a sense of hope. When you drive around the country, what you want to see optimism in people's faces. You want to see that they believe that there's a better tomorrow. And the reason why they believe that there's a better tomorrow is because they have confidence in their
leadership.
And so let's talk a little bit about the leadership of Dr. Irfan Ali.
I know schools. I've attended several free schools in Guyana. These are trade schools opened by our president to empower the boys and the girls. If you don't want to go to college, that was the first step, to do a trade. So many trade schools open, and that's number one. Trade jobs are number one right now in our country. Education, healthcare. As I said, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. But our president is enabling you to work and earn that. He's teaching you, giving you all these trades so you can empower yourself, empower your families, and teach your kids also. When you have money, you could give them an education. Let's talk about free schooling.
Free schooling.
Tremendous.
Right? Sorry, Brian.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But just to not jump off the entrepreneurial piece, which is that 2 weeks ago, the president announced that he is creating a fund of, I believe, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's about $500 million to support small business development and entrepreneurship across the nation, right? All the way in the hinterlands,
making everybody independent. Everyone should have a little business,
it.
right?
That's everyone.
Sometimes you
shares
need
it.
a little
Yeah.
turnover, a little start, and you're getting it.
It animates people. It gets people invested. It gives people the opportunity to act on their dreams and their ideas, and to give it a shot and take those risks. Open a business, do something, do what you want to do, live your dreams. I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
Whether it's a hair salon or a bake shop, these are, a business that's profitable, and it makes so many women and independent.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. What it's doing is it's the PPP economic policies are designed to lift atmosphere for them to take advantage of the economic benefits in Guyana, to capitalize on and the successes of Guyana, to capitalize on the natural resources, and to make part of that their own. And so, this is what I say when we talk about, the manifesto. When you look at these other parties and you're trying to figure out, well, what is it that you're going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
I have 3 books here showing what our president is doing.
But I think that's exactly the right point, which is, and if you go back historically, the grounding and the founding of the PPP in a whole different era, but it was very much about helping working people and helping uplift working people and empowering working people to lead valuable, rewarding, and secure and economically productive lives. And that was the grounding of the party. And that's really
give them a purpose also, you give people a purpose.
Give them an opportunity. To work and to benefit from your own labor and your own energy and your own creativity. I have to say, it's so important, particularly in a resource-rich time, that you have that philosophy. Because, look around the world. There are oil states all over the place, but many of them,
are not benefiting.
Well, they don't benefit at all. You go to a country like Angola, and there are children starving. It's one of the oil-rich countries in the world. The elite are billionaires, and there are children starving in the streets with their teeth rotting out because they don't care. And that's the difference. Is that Guyana has a leadership that actually, in Dr. Irfan Ali and Barachek Deo, in the leadership of the party, and frankly in the DNA of the party, that says we are going to care about working people. And you need that. You have to have that. If you don't have that, don't do this, because the alternative is kleptocracy, and that's what we don't want.
Right. You could see our president care for his people because he attend all church. He goes to all mosques, all the mandirs. You see him eating in a gathering in all the mandirs. He is very social. I think he's a hugger. He loves to hug and meet people and talk to them, hear what's going on. He conversate with you. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, when you look at his leadership style, and this probably is a good place for us to talk about him and about his leadership style, because this nation, the massive support that he's getting across the country is because of a sincere leadership style that he has, right? That's not, I'm going to show up in a big SUV, an air-conditioned SUV, and I'll walk away and give a speech. He's going there to mingle. He's going to talk.
He sits and he eats with them.
And possibly post too many pictures, but that's a different story, right?
No, but it's good. It's all good. Look, I've run for office here in the United States. I ran for United States Congress. And, you have to love people. You have to like people. You have to find people to be enjoyable, to be with and to listen to and to learn from, because you learn from everyone. And but I've been to rallies. I was at a PPP rally not too long ago in New Amsterdam, and then 2 days later I'm in a different town in Riverton, and President Ali was across the street again, and so I went over and listened. But he takes a lot of time to talk to people to listen to their concerns, to listen to what's going on. Are the ditches not being dug? Is something going on in a particular school? I mean, small things, but for people, it's so important. And for him, it's not too small,
Right.
because, and I was so impressed with that, because he just has that touch, that ability to reach people and to listen to people. So it was very impressive.
So let's talk about Irfan Ali. One of the things that when a nation is electing a leader, they're looking for what are the core values that this particular person wants to transmit or to deliver to the population, right? And some of the core values here, right, is number one, he's a very compassionate person, right?
Family values.
Family values, religious values, right? But those are his values. That's who this person is. That's who Irfan Ali is.
Respects people.
Right? Respect people. But the other side of that, right? You can have all those values, but don't bring that in the public eye and have people coalesce around you.
Right.
And he has been able to have people coalesce around him. And the reason why, and you mentioned this, Shanaz, which is that he's listening, right? He's acting. How many times have you not been in a room or been to a meeting where someone comes up and, he'll put his hand on their shoulder and this person is saying, I need some help here. And he'll call one of his ministers or call one of his aides and said, listen, take this down and let's make sure.
Yeah, he doesn't dismiss.
Right.
He never seen him dismiss
one of the
anyone.
most remarkable thing as well was that I think I can't remember, was it a 5:00 meeting with the contractors?
Oh, I remember that one. Right.
Holding people
accountable.
That is a value that is important for a leader, which is that he knows he has the responsibility of the Guyanese people purse, and he's making sure that he's holding people accountable.
Here you have projects that are waiting to be delivered and done, and it's dragging on, leading on, and he just put his foot down. He held that meeting, and everybody was on their P's. They got the work done.
And he believes in. You can see it in the way that he's relating to the international. This man has done what probably, I don't know, perhaps Chetty Jagan and Barajak Deo has done, which is to put Guyana, on the international. I mean, his ability to stand in. I remember, and there's one interview, goes back with when he sat in front of the
BBC News.
I mean, let me tell you something, right?
He shut them up for a little bit.
Yeah, he spoke with conviction. He spoke with knowledge. He spoke with a sense of, no, you're not going to push our country around, right? I'm standing up for my nation and my Guyanese people.
And so we're not asking for what belongs to us.
Yeah. The other side of all of this is that you can't ignore that, he is an educated man. He has a doctorate degree. Right? Dr. Irfan Ali, right? And so, he knows, how to straddle that professional life, that compassionate life, that home life, that everything that is required to make, someone be respected as a leader. So I think when you he's got all of the ingredients and it's coming together nicely. And, he has done a remarkable job in the last 5 years, right? I mean, the World Bank, the IMF,
orphanages as well.
Everyone is raving about the economy. I just wrote another letter this past week about inflation and PVP being accused of not doing enough for inflation, and that's ridiculous. Inflation is relatively low compared to our neighbors, right? Compared to the rest of the world, and he has had, about 3 or 4 different initiatives to bring relief to the Guyanese households. So, I think in terms of leadership, the PPP has someone at the helm who can take them into the next generation.
Let me add to that because we haven't really touched on it yet. But, Guyana's standing in the world and the very competent, deft hand that Guyana has addressed the world with, is actually incredibly impressive because, Guyana's not in an easy neighborhood. There's a dictatorship next door. Nicolas Maduro, who's now wanted. He's an international drug smuggler. He's wanted by the United States of America. America's just put a $50 million bounty on his head.
Right.
He's threatened Guyana. He's actually sent troops into, it's way in the jungle. Nobody's even near there. But he sent troops in just to show he's gonna try to take a little piece of Guyana. And so this is not easy. When you have an aggressive,
that's our
unstable
safety.
dictator.
That's our Guyanese people's safety, and he's doing.
Absolutely.
Our president is doing an awesome job thinking
that's what I was
about that.
gonna say. Look, it is what President Ali has done, and his team have done in being able to reach out to establish strong diplomatic support, strong military support. Where
Border
you see a British warship sailing up the Demerara River, you see American military personnel, flying in and out of Georgetown. That message was sent to Nicolas Maduro. Don't you dare!
Yeah.
Don't you dare! And that is the shield that is protecting Guyana. But that is very much based upon the diplomacy and the connections and the outreach of President Irfan Ali, of Dr. Barrett Jagdeo when he was president, established tremendous connections around the world. But they're respected. It's a respected leadership.
And also, other leaders from other countries respect our president because he has a relationship with them. He built that relationship. They see what he's doing, and they're taking lessons as of a leader, right?
No, absolutely. There is no question about his leadership in not only in Guyana but the Caribbean. And also on the world stage. What that has done is it has put Guyana in a new light. It has put the Guyanese people, elevate them to a global citizenry, right? That has, I'm pretty sure that countries are going to start to say, no, you're from Guyana, you don't need a visa to come here.
Sure.
Well recognized,
Yes.
And it's already happening.
And it's happening. And it's happening relatively quickly.
because they're building relations with our country. They want to be part of Guyana.
And there's one other thing, Shanax, that you have to, when you talk about leadership and you talk about, the economic, we always focus on the economic development, right? But economic development does not come without strong democratic pillars. It doesn't come without strong social pillars. It doesn't come without strong sense of community, right? Our economic success, the PPP success, has been building that. When you look at the amount of FDI, foreign direct investment going into Guyana, it's tremendous. People have confidence. They're coming back. They're saying, I want to be a part of it.
I was telling Mr. Grant, the latest of styles and fashion and anything you want, you think America has it, Guyana has it first.
That's right.
Imports says, stop. And during, I wanted to touch base back during the tough times during APNU, I had opened my non-for-profit because I see the suffering that everyone was asking for help. The food insecurity was there. So my non-for-profit organization visited Guyana several times to do that. Now I don't get a call for a wheelchair, no food hampers or nothing. They know where to go get it. They know the ministries are there.
We were talking whimsically or nostalgically about sending barrels down to Guyana with clothes and foodstuffs and people aren't sending barrels down anymore.
Now we're asking them to send us some.
So, I think the reason why we have all of this happening is because people, nations, and everyone recognizes that Guyana now has strong democratic systems in place that will guarantee your right, every single Guyanese right, and they will guarantee, your investment and ensure that it is protected, it is safe, ensure that if you need an issue resolved from the judiciary, it is done in a fairly equitably.
And I was going to say, I mean, look, one of the great pillars and really a strength of the country. And my late father-in-law, Jaro Armasir, was an attorney. He actually went back. He lived here for many years and then went back in his retirement and practiced for a decade. But it's the rule of law. And Guyana is deeply vested and embedded in the rule of law. And, this government is extremely protective of the rule of law and the concept of the rule of law and the integrity of the rule of law. But that's what attracts people. There are opportunities, but you have to be able to be confident that when you put money, an outside investor, money into Guyana, that it will be protected by the laws, that it will be protected by the institutions which are not corruptible. And again, it's a huge credit to this government that, we have a robust judiciary. And they don't always rule the way you want them to, but that's the test. They're independent. They're pledged and sworn the laws of the Constitution. Sometimes they don't always do it, but mostly they do. And it's the protection of that concept that is so important. And really, it's why Guyana is booming today. I mean, you could go to Venezuela. There are lots of things there. You don't have the rule of law in Venezuela. You put your money in there, or you go to Cuba and put your money in, and 2 years later, some comandante or one of Maduro's kleptocrat buddies or one of his goons will say, no, I want that factory. I want that for me. And you lose everything. And that happens all the time. That's why Canada used to, there was a period where Canada would invest in Cuba. Not anymore. No one will touch it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching us on NTN in Homeland Guyana Channel 9 News. Also, thank you for watching us on the SMS network. I'm glad to be in your company every Wednesday, aside these gentlemen who are so knowledgeable to share with us what's happening in Guyana. We have 5 parties, and I know we touched base on them a little bit. We have 5 parties that are contesting the upcoming election, 4 of which we talked about were part of the APNU PNC group, and they were involved also in the rigging of the 2020 elections. The newer one is the 5th party is led by a sanctioned individual. What are your thoughts? I'm sure we talked about it a little bit.
I am very much convinced that Mohammed is not in this to do the things that
For the people
that will do the things to elevate the society, like the PPP and Irfan Ali. He's in it. Mohammed is in it for personal gain, and I strongly believe that he's in it because he wants to stay out of jail.
I agree. I mean, it's actually ridiculous.
Yeah.
Here you have a guy who's now been charged with crimes, who's been sanctioned by the United States of America, by the Treasury Department of OFAC, whose personally and whose businesses are now sanctioned and cannot deal with banks because they are sanctioned institutions. And I mean, it's preposterous that someone who's basically a criminal is a criminal.
If you cannot run your own entity, which is a small entity, how are you expected to run a whole entire country?
But it's worse. I forgot who, maybe it was a Freddie Kassoon column the other day, but talked about him. And here's someone who had this Azruddin Mohammed. I mean, his father is a billionaire, allegedly, but certainly very, very wealthy. And, here's someone who grew up with all of the advantages in the world, 10 Lamborghinis in the garage, and he never got himself educated. He never did. He's 38 years old. He's not a baby. He's a grown, man with, his middle-aged paunch already starting. And he's done nothing in his life. I mean, nothing except show off. And it's absurd that someone who's done nothing except spend a lot of money suddenly thinks he's going to participate in a process. But it's even worse than that. And why is it worse? Because the United States Treasury Department said it. They got their money in large part by evading the international sanctions on Venezuela, smuggling gold and drugs out of Venezuela onto the international market. Those are serious crimes. And a lot of this, and this news just came out in the last few days, that Azruddin Mohammed has been going to the Venezuelan consulate and embassy in Georgetown, trying to arrange his visas and arrange his exit strategy so that when the police are coming to get him, he's going to try to run out the back door into Venezuela. So what is this? This is a Venezuelan put-up. You know, and Venezuela is a nasty dictatorship. This is a Venezuelan put-up to try to interfere with the Guyanese democratic elections. No country should stand for this. And he should be, the voters, I mean, it's only 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to the election, but the voters should just, not a single person should cast a vote for him and his band of thieves.
I mean, it would be a wasted vote because, as you allude to the fact that he might be in Venezuela in a couple of weeks, right?
Right.
As a fugitive.
As a fugitive.
Right?
Oh, okay.
So, but you know, the most disgusting thing about him is that he professed to want to help develop Guyana, but he stole from the Guyanese people.
He's
Just silly.
he's for himself.
Yeah.
He's
And it's surprising that the people cannot see now. Well, some of them, maybe they're intimidated. They're seeing it. They're seeing
People
I
are
think people
seeing
see
it. They're seeing it clearly. It'll show the numbers. It will show on election day.
Yeah.
You know, there was something that I saw today, him on a boat. He was the only one on a boat, right? When you see Irfan Ali walk into
the Red
rally,
River. We
it's
call
the
it the
Red
Red River.
it's a public service behind him.
cannot
This isn't just,
Right.
he didn't just pop up after a rainstorm and become president 5 years ago. He served as Minister of Housing. Yes. Yeah. And prior to that, and he had a long record of service. And this other guy is just a criminal. I mean, just a random criminal. So it's.
We have so much to say of our president, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, a journey to prosperity for all, infrastructure. Together we could build the future, guys. Election is set upon us for September 1st. Get out there. You already know who your candidate is. The one who's making Guyana, so lovable, so livable for everyone that we want to go back. We want to help build Guyana. Let's build Guyana together. We talk about the infrastructure, the toll-free bridges, education. I saw the first lady.
No new taxes.
No new taxes. The first lady actually said on no taxes on sanitary for female as well. And she is a woman empowerment. Right. She is a whole lobby on her own when it comes to families and kids and mothers on hospitals. She is doing it for our females and our mothers out there. So he's a president with a strong first lady behind him, and there's a good team. You haven't seen a first lady out there. I haven't read a newspaper that someone is doing something, but she's building all the parks for the children and the mothers, the maternity ward, all the feminine products, tax-free. I'm sure we have a list out there.
You're from Riverton. You saw the parks that
the park in Riverton is a beautiful state of the art. We just
so what the PVP party has done is that they have lived up to their promises that they made to the Guyanese people.
I think they went beyond the promises.
And they went beyond the promises, but they certainly have lived up. If you look across Guyana, increase disposable income, and that's really means people have more money in their pockets to, get better food, get better health lifestyle, live a better lifestyle. I read this one story in the newspaper about, the license plate that, they got to expand the numbering system because people are,
as he said, more cars in Guyana.
That's a funny, story in a sense that, listen, that means there's significant development, and it means that it's hitting the Guyanese people.
Yeah. And the traffic's a problem, but it's a good problem.
Yeah, it's a good
because
problem,
it shows people have prosperity and they're able to afford things, And the other good thing is, unlike Trinidad, where there's no space,
Right.
Guyana has a lot of space.
We
You
have
can
space.
build.
They're
We can
building out,
build
yeah.
roads, and they are building roads.
And one of the other significant things is that, and I heard the president and the vice president spoke about this, which is how do you get Guyanese to build generational wealth, right? And not just
Provide them for today.
right? And so one way to do that, and we see that here in the Guyanese community in New York and everywhere else they went to, the first thing they did was to acquire property.
Yeah.
And so what is this government? What is the PPP government?
Home ownership. I was just talking to Mr. Grant about how many house lots they delivered.
50,000. Yeah.
50,000.
50,000. That's houses for 200,000 people. That's a third or
Of the
a
population.
quarter of the population of the whole country.
And-
By the way, if you did that here, you would have to build 90 million houses for
That translates the younger generation can inherit that. The younger generation can build from that financial base, and that is a monumental thing.
That's a strong
that the party has
foundation.
done. Yeah, it is creating that foundation, laying that foundation for future growth. They've also had a phenomenal program in terms of how do you build the next generation of Guyanese skilled professionals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the gold program, right? I can't remember, 30,000 scholarships or so awarded. Free college education. Well, take that
Free
now.
trade schools are also there.
Free trade school. Take that now, right? With your families, Guyanese now will be able to have wealth in the form of home ownership. They're bettering themselves, scale up and skills up, right?
You
And
have
so
to get a skill,
new
you have to
jobs,
get education.
all of that come together now, right? And in a fair and competitive economic system, right, which the Guyanese government has provided, well, that presents numerous opportunities for Guyanese, right? For whether you're at this level, that level, or wherever, there are opportunities there for you.
Yeah, and look, Guyanese are very entrepreneurial people. I mean,
They're
I see
working
it in my family. I mean, my father-in-law wasn't here more than 4 or 5 years, and he bought a 14-family apartment building and rehabbed it, and
Investment.
wasn't particularly safe then, but they collected the rent, and it's very, people are very entrepreneurial and very, very focused on business and doing things. And
The president columnists and panelists. I want to thank Mr. Deo, Mr. Teloki for coming in. Mr. Grant, thank you. Homeland Guyana, Channel 9 also, and on my network, the SMS network. Thank you guys for being in our present.
Do we have any viewers?
We do have one viewer, and thank you for bringing that up, and I'll read that one. This viewer stated, and this was from last week's show when you weren't here, I was present at the PPC launch, their campaign a few weeks ago, and just out of curiosity, one of the guys went there, and my family and I were PPP supporters, but when PNC supporters, thank you. They were PNC supporters, but when I heard President Ali and Vice President Barr Jack Leo's speech, he started to cry. This is from our viewer. He said, I tore my shirt off and asked the guy next to me to give me one of his PPPC t-shirt. I felt as a Guyanese that the PPPC party is the only party that could run this country. I felt a sense of joy, and we just talked about how the people are feeling in our country. I felt a sense of joy. I felt that Ali and Jack, they really care about the Guyanese people, and they know that what they are doing I'm proud to say, as a Black man, I no longer have to hide who I am. I'm a proud guy, PVP supporter, and I support President Irfan Ali for the next president, for the next 5 years, for our next president. So, guys, you have this testimony day after day. People are coming out saying what a good job he's doing. We are so proud of him. We are proud of our country. We're proud to say we're Guyanese. What's stopping you from going back to homeland Guyana? Visit it today and let us know what you think. Remember, election is set for September 1st. Get out there and strike that vote next to PPPC party, the party that makes a difference, the party that represents all. Until next time, thank you guys for being here, and thank you for watching. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m., the Guyana Election Forum. Take care of yourself and each other.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you to NTN Radio in Homeland Guyana. Thank you to Channel 9 for carrying. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday with all your comments and all your questions.